The first video I ever made on RWBY was actually about Ruby, her Semblance specifically. Crazy to think that that video is now over 1 year old. I've been wanting to make an updated version of that video, so this will be it. Let's start with the misconception that RWBY Semblance is speed. Spoiler alert, it isn't. Early on in the show, RWBY Semblance wasn't as developed as it became in the end of Volume 3 and forward. And it also didn't help that Pyrrha said that RWBY Semblance is speed, which is the cause of a lot of the confusion with her Semblance to begin with. Now, that statement is extremely easy to debunk though, for a number of reasons. For one, it's Pyrrha's opinion, and though she was a world-renowned student, she doesn't know everything about everyone. She is not omniscientific. She made an assumption. Secondly, based on what we have seen of RWBY Semblance after Volume 3, it clearly isn't speed. It's much more than that. And the main piece of evidence is actually Crow. RWBY stated that Crow helped her unlock her Semblance, and Crow literally said that RWBY Semblance is the ability to burst into rose petals, which we do indeed see her do on a number of occasions. Now, to be fair, Semblances are canonly stated to be able to change and evolve. Ozpin himself told us this, and earlier in the show, RWBY Semblance was not exactly the rose petal burst level that it is currently, but it was still definitely more than speed, so that mistake was definitely understandable for those who made it. However, as of Volume 4, like I stated earlier, her Semblance is very clearly much more than speed. So RWBY Semblance is Rose Petal Burst, but what does that mean? Well, we've seen that it literally allows her to change her biology. This does indirectly boost her speed, but it also allows for so much more. For example, we saw RWBY literally flying around the entire map in the Volume 4 character short. There's also the time that RWBY pulled Nora into her Rose Petal Burst in order to boost Nora's momentum as well against the Geistgrim in Volume 4, Chapter 1. My personal theory is that when RWBY unlocked her Silver Eyes, she also unlocked more of the potential of her Semblance. Again, as Ozpin stated, Semblances can change and evolve, and we know that Aura and Semblance are tied to one soul, so it makes perfect sense that traumatic events can indeed help someone realize their Semblance's full potential. For example, more recently, Emerald using her Semblance in a much greater way than ever in Volume 5 after realizing that Cinder failed, and also Jaune unlocking his Semblance to begin with during his despair over Weiss. It just makes perfect sense that the emotional trauma RWBY endured witnessing Pyrrha's murder in front of her was also the cause of her Semblance being actualized to more of its full potential, as well as the unlocking of her silver-eyed powers. Now, I'll also say that while I do think RWBY currently has manifested her Semblance in a much greater version of how it was earlier in the series, I also don't think its full potential has been reached just yet. So I've explained why Pyrrha saying that RWBY Semblance's speed doesn't have any weight to it at all, but there's two other arguments that people often cite in terms of claiming that RWBY Semblance's speed. One of those things is the RWBY Wikipedia, which states that RWBY Semblance's speed, but the Wikipedia page for RWBY is a fan-made entry. It is not official, and there is indeed false information in the RWBY Wikipedia since it is fan-made. The third piece of evidence that people cite for RWBY Semblance being speed is saying that the rose petals are just a byproduct of her speed, but that's not the case because we have seen RWBY's rose petals activate when she's moving extremely slow. Therefore, it is impossible for the rose petals to be a byproduct of speed when they are activated when RWBY is barely even moving at times. Rose Petal Burst is an extremely powerful Semblance with potential to be used offensively, defensively, and even as a utility, and it may even get more powerful as the series goes on. We will certainly have to wait and see until then. If you enjoyed this video, remember to subscribe and turn notifications on so you can be aware of when a new video comes out, and feel free to leave a comment with your thoughts. I'll check it out, maybe even reply to you, and maybe even feature your comment in my next video.